Back with the starters, right into the goods, and our first goodie is LeBron James could very likely be the Eastern Conference All-Star starting center. Voting doesn't conclude until January 20th. We got lots of time, but Ethan Skolnick of Bleacher Report noticed over the weekend that LeBron, Carmelo, and Paul George are probably the heavy favorites to gain the top 3 front court spots. Therefore, really, by default, out of those 3 guys, LeBron James would be your starting center.
I loved how LeBron reacted to it, too. He said, me? It's the starting center against Dwight Howard?
Yep.
That was phenomenal. And I actually think, I mean, it's an all-star game, so who cares if you're playing defense against Dwight Howard? Just get out of the way. I mean, you know, offer a little bit of resistance. But maybe it's actually a challenge for LeBron, so it kind of gets him into it defensively because he kind of wants to take on Dwight.
Yeah, he'll probably play pretty hard defense now that he's the center in the all-star game.
Well, a little bit more. I mean, what would he do on a wing? I mean,
the same thing he's going to do as a center. Run up and down the court and catch alley-oops.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, a little bit of a challenge.
This, of course, happening because fans, I believe it was last year, it was all changed, the format, so you're just voting for 3 front court players and 2 back court players. So it looks like we could have LeBron at the center position.
Yeah, he said, don't list me as no center in the All-Star game, just list me as a player. Nobody wants to be called a center. You remember Tim Duncan, for years, hasn't been a center, even though he's been a center.
All right, next goodie here. The Philadelphia 76ers are a viable destination, throw that in quotations, for Omer Ashik. According to ESPN's Mark Steinemo, 3 reasons why Philly's front office, run by a certified Ashik fan in former Rockets exec Sam Hinkie. Philly has a front court player to send back to Houston, possibly, and a Thaddeus Young. And his final reason, there probably isn't an Ashik-like player for Philly to sort of draft with a high pick that they're likely to snag. What do you guys think about this latest rumor, the one of 10,000 Ashik rumors we've had so far?
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, you like it?
For both teams. I like how they're actually targeting a player, the Rockets are, if it is Thaddeus Young coming back, because this talk about them getting a draft pick, I mean, that should be thrown out the window. Let's go for it. Let's get a player who can play beside Dwight. And he's obviously a pretty, decent player, a stellar defender.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so why wouldn't you want him? And I think Ashik is an incredible backbone for a young team to have as a center defensively.
What about Nerlens?
I'm talking about. Yeah, that's the question. If you're going to pay next year for Omer Ashik for $15 million, because his cap number is only 8, but out of pocket you got to pay $15 million, you're going to want him long term, right? I mean, you're not just paying $15 million for Omer Ashik for next year. As a young team that might get 25, 30 wins, that's not the plan. So you're going to want him long term. So you're going to sign him long term. How does he work with Nerlens Noel? But I do think, I think he's become a little underrated even defensively because he's sort of playing with Dwight. He's cried a little bit. But if you can get Thaddeus Young out of it for the Rockets and you can get an incredible defensive backbone as the Sixers, I think you can, as long as he can play with Nerlens Noel.
Let's hear what people think about that possible trade rumor there. Ashik for, let's say, a Thaddeus Young, Sixers and the Rockets. All right, final goodie here. On Friday, Nene left the Wizards-Bucks game in the third quarter with a foot injury. The Wiz would go on to lose the game, and after the loss, Wiz Big, Marcin Gortat, called out Nene a little bit. He questioned his dedication to the team. Going to read the quote here. I know he wasn't happy with me. I know he was in pain, but it's better he's angry with me and he plays. You know why? Because our team needs him. I tell him, you too big to complain. I say, listen, I know you're in pain, but even 50% of you is still good for us, and you can give us a lot, end quote.
That was a good reading of not perfect grammar.
Well, that's what he said.
Yeah, that was perfect.
You're too big to complain.
And this is why you can't put the Wizards or prop them up as the 3rd best team in the Eastern Conference to me, because Nene constantly misses games.
Yep.
It's a fact. He's missed 30% of the Wizards games since he was acquired in March 2012, and they're 7-31 without him. And there was a reason Denver signed him to a 5-year, $65 million deal and then traded him 3 months later, because I think they knew something, that he doesn't want to play through injuries. He's constantly injured. And not to say that he isn't tough, because he is a tough guy. But the fact is you can't bank on him to play. Yeah. You can't.
There are just some guys that are going to miss games, and you have to decide on, as a franchise, if you're okay with having 60 games from your center.
Yes, when he signed through 2016. And the fact is, when he's out of the lineup, Gortat has to play with Trevor Booker or Chris Singleton. They look very bad.
Quite a bromance, though, between these two already.
Yeah.
Marcin Gortat has tweeted him after the game saying Nene was great today, and now I think these two are just coming together. It's great.